With breaking news out of the NFL, where Jaguars two-way star Travis Hunter has undergone season-ending knee surgery. The procedure repaired an LCL injury suffered on October 20th, and he's expected to return to full football activities within 6 months. Our Jonathan Jones reports that Hunter's injury is not expected to have any long-term impact on his career. The number 2 overall pick took the majority of his snaps on offense this season, tallying 28 catches for just under 300 yards and a touchdown. On the other side of the ball, he racked up 15 tackles and 3 passes defended. All right, back here with Lige Douzable and Pete Prisco. All right, this is a tough blow to the Jags for the remainder of their season, given how it's gone. Where do they go from here?
Very unfortunate because they gave up a lot of draft capital. And I know people will say, well, this guy is playing on both sides of the ball. This is why this injury happened. No, this was a non-contact injury, and it's a fluke injury. Anytime you get like the ACL, the PCL or the ACL, those are non-contact injuries, and it just happens to be bad luck. And it sucks because we started to see him come into his own right before the bye in London. He showed that he was one of the better playmakers on offense, and I know that he was going to start playing a little bit more on defense. So it would have been interesting to see how they were going to progress his reps throughout the season. Unfortunately for not only us as fans watching the game, but also for the Jacksonville Jaguars, he's going to be gone for the year.
He was getting ready to play every snap. They were going to do that. The week of the Raiders game, they were going to start putting him in on both sides of the ball. He was their best receiver. He was their best corner. And so he was going to start doing that. And unfortunately, during practice, he was in coverage. He suffered the torn LCL. And look, the good news is it's not an ACL. That's the good news. But you lose him for the year, and now that sets off the alarms. Everybody out there, what a waste, terrible trade. And the answer to that is, right now, it looks like a bad trade. But you can't judge that trade right now. You got to let it play out. And he was going to on the verge of becoming something really special. And I had heard some rumblings that he was not going to make it through the, they're going to shut him down. And so when you look at this, it's bad for a team that right now, somehow, some way, that team would be in the playoffs. I don't know how, but they would be.
Yeah, I was going to say quickly before we move on, Pete, because right now from a fan perspective, it's devastating. You have this horrible way to lose against a divisional rival. And the people in the building, to your point, might have known that this was going to happen with Travis Hunter, and they knew that. But for the team to officially have that news out there and all the chirp from the fan base, do they move forward? How do they move forward here? Because they're in a spot that seems like a real momentum just sucker.
Well, and this is a trying week for Liam Cohen, the head coach.
Yeah.
I mean, you get where you're up on your division rival with a chance to really end their season, basically, and you blow a 19-point fourth-quarter lead to Davis Mills. I mean, of all people, look, Davis Mills, I liked him coming out, but you can't blow a 19-point lead to Davis Mills in the fourth quarter. So it's going to be interesting to see how Liam Cohen gets up off the deck, gets his team up off the deck. He already came out. I mean, credit to him. He said there are going to be changes on defense. He questioned the defense. And for him to put that out there publicly, usually coaches don't do that. That tells you how upset he is with that group. So this is a big week for Jacksonville and Liam Cohen. And they play the Chargers, who, by the way, their best victory with Trevor Lawrence in their history came against this same team in the playoffs.
And the biggest thing is, how do you handle this adversity, right? We always had a saying in the locker room, Pete, don't let a team beat you 2 weeks in a row. You talked about it. They were up 19 points in the fourth quarter. They gave up 26 in the fourth quarter alone to lose this game. That can really weigh on a team and on the defense. So it'll be up to Liam Cohen and the leadership in that locker room for them to pick themselves up, because nobody's coming to save you. Travis Hunter's down for the year. There's no magical being out there that's going to save you. Only the players in that locker room and the coaching staff can save them right now.
How do you get past the choke job? That's the question. That's basically what it is. They choked.
Yep, they certainly did. And we want to get to Pete Prisco.
Closed the book on Week 10 after a very, very slow game last night between the Packers and the Eagles. And if the postseason were to begin today, here's how things would shake out. On the left, you see the Colts standing strong up top, followed by the Chargers, the Steelers. No Chiefs in the playoff picture just yet, but we'll keep our eye on them. They're going against the Broncos, who are the current 2 seed. Then on the right, the NFC, no surprise, the Philadelphia Eagles have gotten it together. They stand atop those standings. You got the Seahawks in the mix, too. Really, the NFC West is cooking right now. We're going to talk about that later in the show. But let's get into some postseason conversations. And for more on the postseason, we bring in our NFL writer, John Breach. Breach is going to kind of break down the playoff picture for us into tiers. And Breach, we're starting with teams that are lock for postseason play. So these are ones that our Sportsline model basically gives a 90% chance or better to make the postseason. Which teams are you liking in that bracket, Breach?
That's right. And Sportsline isn't saying they're a lock. I'm saying they're a lock because these teams are not going to collapse down the stretch. Let's start in the AFC. The teams that have a 90% chance or better of getting in. The New England Patriots. They haven't been to the playoffs since 2021. It's like Tom Brady days back there with Drake May. So they look like a lock right now. The Indianapolis Colts coming on strong. And then also the Denver Broncos. And those three teams have one big thing in common, Haley. They are all 8-2. And so when you have that record 10 weeks through the season, they could essentially collapse down the stretch and probably still make the playoffs. You're looking at these three teams. If they go 3-4 over their final 7 games, they still get to 11-6. That's getting you in the playoffs. So these three teams feel very, very comfortable right now. In the NFC, there are 4 teams that have chances above 90%. We're looking at them right now. That is the Seahawks, the Los Angeles Rams, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You mentioned the NFC West. It really feels like the Seahawks and Rams are kind of running away with that division. The 49ers are kind of beat up. It would be a shocker if either of those two teams was left out. The NFC East, outside of Philadelphia, is a total disaster. I think Philadelphia could sleepwalk through the rest of the season and still win that division title. And then obviously the NFC South, the Buccaneers, because they are in a division that is not so great, that is why Tampa Bay is so high on the list. So there you go. Half the playoff spots already taken, Haley. That's it right there, 7-14.
That means everyone else is kind of clawing and scratching and chasing after all these teams. I mentioned it. No Chiefs in the AFC picture just yet, but they've got a big test against the Broncos this weekend. Let's talk about some playoff new bloods here, Breach. These are teams that are like not normally our cast of characters when we think about postseason football, but could make some news down the stretch. So what teams are you looking at here?
Well, one of the stats that always blows my mind with the NFL is that in every season since 1990, there have been 4 new playoff teams. And every year I think there's no way that's going to continue this year. At some point it's going to end. There's not going to be 4 new playoff teams. But guess what? We're perfectly on track to have 4 new playoff teams that did not make the playoffs last year. We mentioned the Patriots and the Colts. Neither of them were in the postseason last year. We know that. The Patriots haven't been there since Mac Jones a few years ago. It's also been a few years for the Indianapolis Colts. Then you also have a couple other teams that could end up in the playoffs that were not in there last year. And with that, we're talking about the Bears and 49ers kind of duking it out at the bottom of the NFC for possibly a 6th or 7th seed. I think the 49ers probably have a little bit of an easier path there. And then we also have the Seahawks. They've been so good this season. It's easy to forget they did not make the playoffs last year. They went 10-7, just missed out on winning the NFC West, but they didn't even get the wild card with those 10 wins. And so they got left out last year. So when Seattle gets in, they're one of the locks again. That means they will be back in the postseason for the first time in several years. So there you go. We've got the Colts, the Patriots, the Seahawks, and then probably the Bears or 49ers. I like San Francisco a little bit more, and so does Sportsline, giving them a 70% chance to get in.
How fun have the Bears been this year? My goodness, all of those games coming down to the wire in the fourth quarter. I would like to see them in the postseason just for what they've done through the first half.